Welcome to Leaders Up Close and Personal. This is a program of UCF's Engineering Leadership and Innovation Institute. My name is Tim Kotnour, and I'm very proud and honored today to have Colonel Dave Martinson with us from the U.S. Air Force. So Dave, thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Tim. Thanks for having me today.
Great. I want to talk a little bit about leadership and get your views on leadership. And I've heard you talk about leadership. And one of the things you talked about is you said leaders take risks. What do you mean by that?
Well, any leader, no matter what the task that they're going to accomplish, knows that there's an opportunity for failure. And that failure is a result of risk that would culminate. So if we want to succeed at a task, you need to understand that there is opportunities to fail along the way. And if we didn't recognize that failure was certainly an alternative to the solution, we wouldn't take the necessary risk mitigations. We would do things foolhardy. We wouldn't do things necessarily in a safe manner either. So I think it's important to recognize that failure can happen, and to embrace the fact that I might fail in this task and I might fail my team, but how do I recover from that failure? How do I get up again and move on to the objective? I think that's what defines a good leader, is how they recover from the failure. And that's not to say that we're not going to look for ways to do things better, safer, smarter, to avoid failure. No one likes to fail. So that's where the risk versus the reward comes in, and good operational risk management of putting in either material solutions, training solutions, personnel, whatever the fix needs to be, or a combination of all of those to help ensure mission success.
So when leaders take on risks, and sometimes it does fail, right? I would imagine you're going to be under a little bit of stress. And I've heard you talk a little bit about, hey, when we're under stress as leaders, or our folks are under stress, we ought to have a wingman, or we ought to be that wingman. What's it mean to be a wingman?
So essentially, to put it in a non-military term, I believe being a wingman is being a good person who's concerned about your teammate, looking for that signs of stress, looking for an individual who may be in trouble, who either passively expresses it or aggressively expresses it, and taking actions to help that person get the help that they need. Why that's important to a team: we can't have productive teamwork if a member of the team is failing. And if the leader's failing because they have their own stressors, people need to look out for those things and take the actions to intervene and help. And sometimes it's just as easy as a question: are you okay? Is there something I can do to help? People respond and react to stress in different ways. And so there's not a universal fix for how people handle stress or react to stress. But what I think is important, though, is we all have a responsibility as good teammates to look out for one another and recognize those signs when a teammate is in need due to stress, and help them get the either the balance back into their life, as far as the things I've talked about is the mental balance, the spiritual, emotional balance, and the physical balance. Help them get that centered again.
Right. Hey, so is my center, I'm assuming my center is different than your center, and my balance is going to be different. What does a leader need to know about me and you to figure out what makes sense and how to help me get balanced?
Well, if we're lucky, we have a baseline of understanding of each other's normal way of being. That would be an ideal situation. But we don't always have that either. Some people could just be naturally a little odd to us. But if we recognize that there's a change, there's probably a reason for that. Maybe it's a temporary one, but if it seems to be enduring and it seems like it's going to jeopardize mission success or personnel safety, then that's where we need to recognize that balance has not been maintained. So artificially and temporarily having things out of balance, that's okay. That's normal. I mean, sometimes you have to surge on a certain thing, and other aspects of your life will not get the attention they deserve. But there's going to be a cost to that, so you need to recognize that, all right, when this part is done, I need to return or bolster those other areas of my life to get that balance back.
Right. So, but in order for a leader to do that, though, they've got to know that person. They've got to know their team members, right? It can't be a kind of a casual. I think you've used the term before, they've got to have a deep understanding of the story.
That's right. Know the story. Every person has a story on your team. If you don't know what that story is, you can't lead. Why it's important we could have secondary and third order effects of contact. But if I don't ask a question, if I don't dig into what affects Tim, what is a concern in Tim's life? Now, some people say, well, that's very intrusive, or that's none of your business. Okay, well, there are different ways to do that subtly, but if I'm your leader, I need to know what makes Tim tick. What are the factors in Tim's life that motivate him to come to work, that are concerning to him, or could be distracting from mission accomplishment? If I don't ask the questions, if I don't know the story, I can't be an effective leader.
Okay. And then so as you're leading, though, one leadership style for all people, for all situations?
I absolutely not. So there are as many different leadership styles as there are leaders. And of those leaders, depending on the situation or environment they're in, they will behave differently with their approach to a problem or a challenge or an issue. That flexibility and adaptability, that resiliency is important. Different teammates respond differently to different stressors and different motivators, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses, and the environment can change for those people, can change for the team. So the leader needs to be keyed up on what is the proper way to motivate the team to get to the objective we need. Sometimes it can be very passive, and it depends on the skill level of the team as well, and that environment that changes. Sometimes it's very directive, other times it's more coaching and mentoring.
Right. And so you use the term there, flexibility and understand weaknesses. Do you as a leader, do you need to be flexible? Do you need to understand your weaknesses? Do you need to be able to honestly assess where you are as a leader and then go make changes?
Absolutely. So we are all really good at telling everyone else how good we are at something. Let me tell you all of my accomplishments. Look how wonderful I am. And that's okay to a certain extent as well. But I think a really good leader also takes inventory of the things they're not good at. Here are my liabilities as a leader. Here are the things that I don't have the skill set in my portfolio. So if I know that and I recognize it, then I'm going to go look for things, resources, or people to help bolster the things that I might need strengthening on. And if I can do that, I'm not only benefiting myself, but I'm also benefiting the team, because now we're more productive and now we have more skills, more answers that we need.
So how do you balance? I understand you got to understand who you are, your weaknesses, you have to get better, right? And so there's a balance of maybe a little bit of humility, but you got to probably have a little bit of confidence.
Sure. Everyone likes to see a confident leader. A confident leader inspires and instills a sense of security for the team. This guy knows what he's doing. He's gonna take us to success. But that humility part is important too. I think anyone in a leadership position has a little bit of an ego. We wouldn't want to lead if we didn't have somewhat of an ego. But to temper that with humility is important, because that allows for approachability and credibility. If someone appears to just be rigid and stiff, that's not a normal human response. And we want to see that our leaders are genuine people that are well-intended and want us to succeed. And that humility part takes a little bit of the edge off the ego part. It makes it a more conducive environment to succeed.
If you had to describe a leader as one or two words, a leader equals.
A leader to me equals a mentor, a coach. The list could keep going on. Right. One or two words is hard because leaders wear many hats, and they wear those different hats during different situations for either the team or the performance of the team members. So having said that, and I don't think I could say a leader is a one or two word answer, right. Because it's a dynamic environment that requires different roles and different hats the leader will wear.
Okay, so one maybe final question. How do you want to be viewed as a leader?
I would like to be remembered as a leader as one who cared and one who made a difference. As long as I feel like I'm making a difference and helping the team get to the goals that are required and what we need to do, then I think I've done my job. If people would look at my leadership and say, that's the kind of guy that I want to follow, that's the kind of leader I want to be when I have the opportunity to lead, I think then that's the way we need to be.
So a leader that made a difference, worried about the team, cared, and maybe a leader that was a human being.
That's right. We expect leaders to get results, so that's a given. It's all. I don't want to say it's a throwaway, but that's what the leader is doing. He's getting the team to the goal line, to the whatever the task is. So I think that's the fundamental foundation of that. How does that leader do that, and what kind of person is that leader? Is that someone you want to continue to follow? And again, leaders can be stern, they can be softer, and that spectrum is going to fluctuate depending on the situation and how it dictates.
Right. Great. Well, Colonel Dave, I appreciate you taking your time to share with our students and to share with us. We clearly have learned a bunch about leadership from you, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. It's been a pleasure to spend
Thank you. This has been UCF's Leaders Up Close and Personal. Thank you for joining us.